Hey friends, Mark Russo here, and today we're going to help you with the short game yips, around the greens, chipping and pitching. Okay, first off, let's talk about it first. We got to get it out in the open. What is it? It's anxiety when you get around the greens. You get a tight lie, a wet lie. Anytime you've got to chip a ball or pitch a ball, especially if I've got to put a high lofted club in your hand, you've got some kind of anxiety where you're going to go to a putter just so you can roll the ball and create less of a chance of having a big miss or an embarrassing miss, whether you might chili dip it or blade it across the green. So today we're going to talk about what it is, how we can help you fix it, and give you maybe one training aid and one drill that I think helps my students tremendously. And also we're going to talk first about clearing up some myths, if you will, about how you can fix this issue, in quotation marks, around the greens. So the first thing that we want to talk about is when I get students who struggle with it, they immediately say, well, I'm really struggling around the greens, so I'm just trying to keep as still as possible and as few moving parts as possible. I want you to understand that is really the worst way you can attack the problem. Logically, it would make sense. You feel like you've got too many moving parts, and of course we know golf isn't always logical. You've got too many moving parts and you think, well, if I take away movement, if I take away complication, I'm going to do better. And the reality is our body is not built to work that way. We have freedom of movement in our elbows and our joints. Our body is meant to use those. The more we make it locked out in certain areas, the more compensations really you have to do within the motion. That may be more measurable type stuff and not visual, but trust me when I tell you, the more you lock things out, the more you're going to struggle with it. You might get a change in results that are okay, but over the long run, you're still going to struggle with the problem. Okay? So get out of your mind that you're going to get more stiff and rigid, and let's start attacking some of the issues. So, to that end, first off, from a setup perspective, around the greens, we're just going to make sure that we have a little weight on our left foot and the toe flared out. I also want you to make sure you're very conscious of where your upper sternum, torso is pointed. So if I was chipping this ball or pitching it, we'll say we'll just put it in the middle for the purposes of what we're doing today. I'm going to make sure that my sternum is a little more in front of the ball. You can see I'm hanging the club here almost like a tie. Make sure that you can do this. Some of you are going to be here. That's starting in the wrong place, and you're already putting yourself in the hole, so to speak, trying to make good contact on short game shots. Around and in front of the golf ball, okay? That's a number one starting point. The second part for me too is going to be giving you a drill that's going to be your go-to for practicing and give you a great feel. So the number one drill that I've used to help increase the amount of movement and flow in the swing, as well as the correct amount of pivot, because a lot of you will stall out and just stay here. You're trying to be rigid. Good pitchers of the ball have movement and flow back and around. You're trying to get more rigid, so you're going to have more movement. So here's the drill. And by the way, I want to give credit where credit's due. As good teachers, every once in a while we come up with a good idea on our own, but most of the time we're learning and sharing and stealing, so to speak, from other great teachers. So this one is passed down to me from my good friend Ryan Cheney, who is my instructor, who I believe learned it from John Sinclair, who's an outstanding instructor as well. So just want to give credit where credit is due. So you're going to set up with your wedge, okay, sand wedge or high lofted wedge, whatever you have is fine. Same setup, feet a little bit apart, toe flared, okay, and we're going to set up with the shaft kind of neutral and maybe the face just a smidge open, okay? Sternum in front, okay? You're going to take your hand, put it flat on the tabletop like this. No cupping it, flat like you would on the table, okay? And then put it on the side of the grip here. You are purposely going to keep it there on the side of the grip, okay? And your goal here is to make swings for me with a little turn and pivot back, and you'll notice my wrists start to hinge a little bit, the face works a little open rather than being rigid, okay? You've got to maintain connection, and you've got to pivot the body and maintain connection and finish here for me. You are not allowed to let your hand come off the grip, okay? Now, when you start out with this, you're gonna be cursing me most likely, but I promise you, if you practice this drill, just try and hit some small ones, you will get better around the greens and get a feel for what it feels like to not lock things out, add movement and twisting into the grip. The purpose of this drill is to give you a little bit more turn and flow because we're limiting how much you can do with your hands and what you put into the grip, okay? So set up, tabletop, okay? Pivot, hold. See where my hand is? Now, one thing I would tell you too, if you're starting out with this, we're just hitting some nice little easy ones. I don't have the TrackMan, kind of went to sleep here on me, so that probably only flew about 25 yards max. Start out by hitting some shots and just nice little easy swings. Don't even worry about a target or the distance. Make good contact, feel the ball, work up into the air, the bottom of the club work through the ground nicely, and get the rhythm and the flow to it. Then what I want you to do is add a target, okay? Your intention, obviously, because we obviously have to do that eventually. But I want you to do this. Now, some troubleshooting here. First off, again, cheating. You're not allowed to fold the hands over. That gives you more connection to it and allows you to start twisting the grip. No way. Flat, if you start coming off of it like this and hit bladed shots over the green. Practice making sure that you are pivoting all the way through. That's a real key for you on this drill, okay? So again, set up, flat, see if we can do it here. Promise you that's gonna help your short game, and especially if you struggle with what we'll characterize as the yips, okay? Really gonna be a great drill for you. One other piece in this deal for you is just making sure you understand the role of acceleration in short game. This isn't just my opinion. You'll hear this from people who are teaching some of the best players in the world too. Trying to accelerate on your chips, you chili dip one here and your buddy says, hey, you decelerated. Boy, that's some of the worst advice you could get, okay? Massive acceleration in short game is killing you, okay? Remember what we're trying to do. We're talking maybe even 30 yards and in and on the putting green. We're trying to make the ball come out slow, right? We're not trying to hit it far. It's got to come out slow and soft. So if I'm rapidly accelerating the club, how am I going to make the ball come out slow? So think about that for a second. The faster I hit it off the face, the faster the ball wants to come off the club face, okay? So what I want you to get out of this is start making your backswing longer and feel like you are cruising to finish in your short game. A lot of you, and we're going to use this tool in a second, are short, I got to accelerate, got to accelerate. That is also going to lead to some yip issues, or at the very least, some chili dipping, double hitting, blading issues, because you're going to, when you make a short swing to over accelerate, you're going to start to push and add acceleration into the club head too quickly. You'll get pass over this way and you might double hit and tap it over your shoulder. So a great tool is first the drill that I just gave you with the hand. A second tool would be just a training club. This is the Orange Whip Stan Utley Wedge. I love this thing for around the green, especially for people who have a high rate of acceleration. You get here and you start going fast. See how that thing bends. So for those of you who struggle with that, or who hit a lot of bladed chips, chili dip, start thinking longer back, cruise through. Or if we're thinking in terms of tempo, 1, 2, 1, 2, not 1, 2. So you'll see here, if I do, see how the wedge just bends, but if I keep a nice 1, 1, 2 tempo, you can hit great shots. However, if I try and go quickly, 1, 2, there you go, okay? So it's really difficult to hit good shots with this if you don't have the right kind of cruising movement through impact. So I will say this often to my students, feel like your backswing is longer than your follow through, not the other way around, okay? That's really gonna be important for you. So if you're struggling around the greens, first thing we wanna do is make sure you get to see someone who knows what they're doing in terms of coaching you through some of the basic setup steps. And again, I'll give them to you real fast one more time. Shaft pretty neutral, not a lot of lean. I don't put the ball super far back in my stance. If I want to hit a low shot, I might put it back in there and stand a little closer to it, sure, but not excessive, and I don't excessively lean the handle. Face might be just a shade open for a pitch shot, maybe a little running chip, maybe a little square, but the setup doesn't vary a ton, and this sternum position is really important. Once we get out of that, then it's about making sure you maintain the right amount of backswing to forward swing ratio and the cruising speed through. So use the flat hand drill, practice that, start with just contact, no target. Just hit some balls and make good contact, then add a target. And then if you're struggling with contact, bladed, chili dipped, ball just goes too far on you and takes off fast, start thinking about longer back, cruise through. Maybe get yourself one of these, practice with these from 30 yards and in. And I think you're gonna start to see a big change in how you perform around the greens. There is hope. You just got to know how to attack the problem. You got to practice the right way and do the right things. And I know you're going to have a better year in 2020 with your short game. Hope that helps, and we'll see you on the lesson tee.